Hi, I'm Patryk Fijałkowski. I'm the senior quest designer in Rebel Wolves, and I'm working on the Blood of Dawnwalker.
So, as first question, how did the development of the studio come together? Like the creation, the idea behind Rebel Wolves?
Well, the team, the co-founders, and they wanted to make something of their own. They have many ideas during the years working on stuff like The Witcher and Cyberpunk, and they wanted to have their own, story to tell. And it was like the vampire topic came on and off and on and off, and they really dig the idea of vampires. And there was also the topic of the historical setting, because there are some historical gigs out there, and it just a lot of talks during the years, and the need to start something new with a purpose turned out into Rebel Wolves, basically.
I think in your June presentation you mentioned something about your protagonist doesn't do classic one-liners, delivering one-liners. Can you go into detail with that? Because most games nowadays, or back in the day, had some protagonists dropping their one-liners. How gonna fix that or challenge that?
Well, we have a predetermined character, Cohen, and he's really just the peasant for most of his life. He's one of the 4 children of a peasant family. And he's the oldest one, so he had to be resourceful, stuff like that. His father teach him to fight with the sword because he has a, let's say, past of his own that we will also explore in the game. So he has those skill sets to be a protagonist because of that, but also because he just from some valley in the middle of nowhere and a nobody peasant before becoming the Dawnwalker. He really doesn't have the attitude to be like a typical hero with one-liners and stuff. I mean, he has a sense of humor, for example. There may be some, sometimes sarcastic options and something like that, but I think they are always earned, and they come from the context of the conversation, not just for the sake of being funny and cool. Like Cohen is often quite insecure about the situation. Being a human during the day and a vampire during the night is something new for him, and he is really conflicted about this. So we really want to dig into this side of him, and not him being on a cool adventure and doing stuff,
Vampire games are every decade, in rotation, out of rotation. Are there any games you drew inspiration from, like Vampire or Bloodlines?
Yeah, Bloodlines was definitely one. The Bloodlines was a big inspiration. Regarding Vampire's topic, True Blood was also, like the TV series True Blood was also a thing. And, vampires are so established in pop culture that really, when you think about every noticeable vampire, it was an inspiration. But it's also fun to take the established lore of a vampire, like everybody knows what makes a vampire, and to just have fun with it. So some stuff are the same, sunlight burns them and it's a no-go. But some may be different, like there may be not a lot of bats, for example, but moths. Or the turning into a vampire is different. Like you don't sink your teeth into your victim, or not victim. It depends on how you look at it. But teeth still play an important role, because teeth grow for the entire life of a vampire, and the bigger the teeth, the older the vampire. And when he's really old, the teeth starts growing from his body. So Zanti, for example, the oldest vampire in the valley, has teeth coming out of her skull because she's so old. And to turn into a vampire, you have to, take off a tooth and pierce the body. So it was fun figuring out those bits, like how to make it our own. And we hope that we will have our own spin on the vampires.
Europe has a lot of cities. Which cities were your inspiration for the game?
I'm not in the art department, and I'm not the concept artist, so I'm not really sure what actual cities they were, inspired by, but I know that we have like people that do historical reenactments, like history geeks, people that are after studies of history, and they really pay a lot of attention to details, like architecture, like clothing. We had a situation recently, a bug actually, that when we were looting bandits, for example, we took all of their stuff and they were all totally naked, and we needed them to have the underwear. And we were like just put some pants on them, and it wasn't so easy because someone from the art department said, well, actually at the 14th century the pants look different and they have some kind of rope or something like that, and we had to make the asset to satisfy them. So there's a lot of thought put into it, and whenever someone is on vacation in some European city, in some cathedrals in Paris, for example, or stuff like that, they like to take photos and then send it like, look at those, frescoes, or look at those floors, and a lot of consideration goes into what will fit and how it should look.
Doing side quests and interacting with people or finding stuff is impacting the story. So what I wanted to ask is, are players going to be able always to tell, like, if this quest or this dialogue option going to impact the main storyline, or is it more like vague to find out?
Not. First of all, we don't have classic main quests and side quests. We just have quests, and it's up to the player to decide what he thinks is the main quest. Like, you know your main goal. You have to save your family that is imprisoned in the castle. And how you do it is your own choice. Like, there are ways to, do it. I think there will be players that will be able to do it day one, like, storm the castle solo and do it. Like, it will be really, really hard, but it's possible. But you can, you have those hooks at the beginning, or you may hear something at the village or stuff like that, and then you pursue those plot lines. And it may turn into a whole chain reaction of you doing many, stuff. But we didn't want to stress the player, for example, that he doesn't know that if he's on the fourth night somewhere, then stuff happens. And if you won't be there, then woohoo. Like, we want to inform the player that there's stuff, basically. So after he engages with something and he knows that stuff is happening there, and if the context allows it, if he doesn't take action, something may happen, like after a day or two or three. But I think we are always trying to be really transparent regarding that, and same goes for time progression. Like, we didn't want to stress the player. You can explore at your own pace the whole valley. It's an open world. And we don't, skip the time when you explore, when you loot stuff. You can soak in the atmosphere and look for interesting things, and there are interesting things. We only push the time forward when you do certain objectives, and this is always highlighted by an icon with an hourglass, so you know exactly how much segments will pass if you do that objective. And I think that's a good balance between letting players just do things at their own pace and still have this urgency of, time is your resource. Like, use it wisely or go crazy with it, whatever. Like, if you pass the deadline, it doesn't mean a game over. Like, the world will react. So you're not super pressured into min-maxing or something like that. That's actually me personally are discouraging to do that. Like, you can, but I think it's more fun if you just go with the flow, experiment, and you see stuff happening, and whether you want to engage it or not is your choice. We try to, give you space.
How does the traversal between the cities work? Are there going to be mounts, like a horse or something?
No, we decided not to have mounts. There are two reasons. One is a production reason, that it's just a lot of work and we have to choose our battles. And second is that our open world is an enormous one. The whole game, I think, it's a ballpark, but it can be finished in around 40 hours. So it's not like a big open world for 400 hours. And we believe it's more like if you had a horse, you would just pass through the valley really quickly, and it's not a super huge valley. And we want to, fill it with stuff. It's a dense open world. So when you go in Gorfoot, it's easier to be, interested by things around. And when you engage in something, we try to reward it by either an interesting plot line or some cool treasure. So this is the second reason. But still, we have obviously a fast travel system, and you can use it freely. And during night, we have ways to move quicker, and not only what we are showing, like shadow step and plane shift, because there are more of a, traversal level design things. You can approach things from different angles, but we also have something for traveling.
I wanted to pick that up. Since you went independent, what are the biggest challenges or limits you faced?
Well, when you have so many possibilities, it's easy to be daunted by it and get lost in it. And the thing I was talking about, like pick your battles, was one of the biggest challenges, because when you can do anything, it's easy to, define it. And when you are working on an existing IP, you have the groundwork done. Like, you are making The Witcher, for example, what makes a Witcher, for example, And when we are making The Blood of Dawnwalker, we had to figure out what we actually want to do. And it's easy to, during the production, just to postpone it, because you are working on combat, you are figuring the quest lines, and maybe you don't want to think on the higher level. Like you are still thinking we will figure it out, but we knew that we have to figure out early, because we wanted to have a clear vision. So creating this vision was a big challenge, and obviously like at the start, like the funding part was also like challenging, but because we had a good pitch and because we had veterans on the team, we managed to make the game fully funded, basically, so we don't have to worry about that. And the scale, as I said before, right, like we knew that we don't want to and won't be able to make like an enormous open world game, so we knew we can make a smaller open world game and make it cool if we have the clear vision. And we tried to figure out this vision. We have to have the entire game at an early stage ready, for example, to test the time progression, because we had, many iterations how it should work, and many edge cases where it won't work. So we had to figure out the most optimal way to have this feeling of the time being a resource, and at the same time not to break quests, for example. So we had to know what to do really early on.
Can you already give a small glimpse on how many different vampire types the game's gonna feature? Because you already showed some.
I can say that obviously in The Blood of Dawnwalker, vampires have the spotlight, right? Because Cohen is a Dawnwalker, so he's half vampire, and the vampires like set the whole story in motion. But we have this thing we call Hidden World, and it's basically like many fairy tales and legends that people in the medieval times heard about. Maybe they are actually real, and there is stuff in the dark, and vampires isn't the only creatures. We have, for example, Uriashis, the goat-like creatures that live in the mountains. They lived in the highest part of the mountains their whole lives, and were hiding from humans. And since the vampires came out and said, "Hello, we are your new masters," Uriashis felt encouraged to come down from the mountains and also make themselves visible. And they are really strong, and they have their own culture that we explore in the game. We also have koboldins that live in the mines, because the Vale Sangora has a lot of mines. They were mining silver. And the koboldins were living in those mines. They have like a hive mind personality. And there are some other things that I can't talk about and don't want to really, because it will be fun to explore the world and see, oh man, you have those, okay. Regarding vampires, we have our stars: Brancis, Zanti, Ambrose, and Bakir. And I think regarding those vampires, we are showing like different sides of them, like showing, for example, Ambrose is the youngest vampire, and he's like this a little bit of Prince Charming there. He's the prettiest one, and he's more like, you are thinking, for example, Twilight or stuff like that, like beautiful vampire. So he's more of like that. He's arrogant and hyped to be a vampire. But on the other hand, you have Zanti, which is almost not human because she's so old and she has those teeth I was talking about. And there's this air of mystery around her, and I can tease that she has her agenda in all of this. Like, she's the oldest vampire, but she's not the ruler of Vale Sangora. That's actually Brancis. And Brancis is more like in between those worlds. Like, he's pretty old, but not as old as Zanti. And he has those ambitions to, come out of the shadow, stop hiding, and make himself known. And obviously we have Dawnwalkers. Like, there may be more than one. And they are a really a whole different type of vampire, and we also will definitely explore that in this game and in other, because it's part of a larger world, and we try to put some breadcrumbs in the game, or sometimes not breadcrumbs, sometimes slices of bread, but it depends on what we want to already share in the game. So I think players will have a lot of fun in learning this stuff.
So you want to expand the game to a universe, maybe, or? Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Like, there will be definitely more games, unless a disaster happens. But we are hoping not. We are doing our best to make it good. And so yeah, there are plans for more games, and perhaps there are many possibilities, and we are exploring them.
Is it possible to skip every boss fight in the game somehow with finding secrets, or is
That's an interesting question. Obviously we have the game in its entirety, and we are testing it in many ways. Combat is obviously an important part of the game. We introduced the Omni attacks and Omni blocks to make the combat more fluid and flexible, so you can go full in on the directional combat and have some advantages from it, or you can just do the Omni attacks and Omni blocks and don't worry about directionality, or you can mix it, which is also fun. So we want the player to engage in the combat, and I think I would say with certainty that you could probably skip many of the boss fights, like most, but I think at the beginning and at the end there may be unavoidable, but there may be a way. Okay, I will say that there may be a way because it's a really interesting question for me too, because we didn't have a mindset that you have to have this option, but like a side effect of thinking about all those branches, like it's a huge puzzle box. I think there may be a way, but I can't say with 100% certainty, because there are multiple endings. And I won't say how many, because we don't want to spoil it, and we want for players to find out. But some of them may be surprising, and I think even using those, there may be some way. So I'd say there is a chance that it's possible, or just with a minimum number of boss fights.
As final question, when you have to pick one specific feature of the game that you really want players to know, what would it be?
I think time progression. I think it's a really cool feature, and it really influences the whole game. Like, from the story perspective, from gameplay perspective. I think it makes a really unique experience when you have to take it into consideration. And I think I'm really proud how we balanced it out to not make it stressful, You know, figuring it out when to push the time forward made for a really unique experience, I think. And that's for me, the number one feature that I'm proud of, and I think players will love. And if they are not sure right now, I think it will come together if they play it. But I hope that right now, when we are showing the game and doing the interviews, I hope it sinks in that it's not a stressful thing. I hate timers in games. I hate it, really. You know, I just hate it. So it was important for me to make it feel comfortable, and I think we achieved that, and it really suits well into the narrative sandbox that we try to create.
Thank you for your time. It was great.
Thank you very much.